I always find it incredibly fascinating watching the progress that's happening next door as they slowly erect this massive building.
I was thinking of the construction that's happening across from the light rail station. Last semester, I was like taking pictures every time I walked past, making a stop motion, but it
Didn't really work out. Yeah.
didn't was too slow.
Yeah, the progress next door seems to have all of a sudden slowed down. They used to be going like gangbusters out there, but now they have slowed their progress significantly. It seems like it's taken them forever to put the brick up on this one wall, and it's... Well, anyways, all right. So this week, we're going to kind of change gears a little bit and talk about something that the book really doesn't spend a whole lot of time talking about. And I think it's a really important skill and a tremendous asset for motion graphics artists going forward. Today, we're going to talk about the art of following points, the art of automatic pixel tracking inside of After Effects. Now, this is going to be kind of a geeky day, but really the outcome of this entire conversation is pretty neat. A lot of times, we want to create animations that are based on the movement inherent in certain areas of our video. So that's what the entirety of our conversation is going to revolve around today. Tracking. This is going to be a conversation that we're going to continue to explore over the next 4 or 5 weeks. The tracking system inside of After Effects is becoming more and more robust each version that's released. The new stuff that's in CC definitely builds on the foundation that they set back in CS6, is we now can do the very basics of 3D camera tracking, something that we'll explore here shortly with one of the projects that comes out of the book. But today we're going to set the foundation and start talking about 2D pixel tracking inside of After Effects. Okay? So it's going to be a pretty fun afternoon. We're also going to round out today's conversation by exploring some effects. And I know your book has introduced the idea to effects the idea of effects to you guys already. We're going to build on that a little bit and talk about some extra effects and how we can combine them with some other audio files and some video clips to create a whole series of compound effects. So tracking and effects, that's what our conversation is going to revolve around today. Before we get started, are there any questions? No? Everyone good? How went Piccadilly Circus last week?
I forget how to do a mask.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I forget how to do the mask.
How to do a mask? Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about masking again today, so you'll definitely get a little refresher. Masking is part of our tool set that we have to be really kind of good at. Masking, I'll be honest with you, if you can get good at working with the masking systems inside of After Effects, a lot of doors will open. Working as a motion graphics artist requires us to be pretty proficient in a couple major areas. One of those areas is masking. So we gotta be good at it. We'll talk about that here again in a minute. Any other showstoppers from last week's homework assignment? Things they just could not figure out? The lab. What about the lab? It was tough. It is. We're in week 8. This is where Mama Bird's going to kick you out of the nest a little bit. Okay, the training wheels are coming off. Okay, and we've had 2 months' work of time spent in After Effects. It's time that we start kind of upping the ante a little bit and raising the stakes. Okay.
Are we going to be working exclusively out of the book from here on out?
It's going to be hit and miss. Some projects are going to come from the book. Other projects are going to be, like this afternoon's project, is going to come directly from me. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. It's like I created a keyframe and I had that keyframe with an easy in on it, and I was like, oh, you know what? Between these two, I actually want this new keyframe to do something else, and then it was just like.
Did it do something like if this was moving to go?
Sideways and over at the same time. I was like, well, maybe I want to go sideways first and then start going back.
Yeah. That's an easy one. I can. Well,
I ended up just deleting them and redoing them all.
I don't want you to do that.
I know.
Because that's a massive step backwards.
I fixed one.
Yeah.
I actually right-clicked on it and I went into the interpolation settings and I set it and I fixed one.
Yeah.
There's a wooden fix.
Right. So let me just make sure I understand what you're talking about when you say interpolation settings. Now, I have just created a keyframe for my position channel here. Now, when you right-clicked on it, you went into keyframe interpolation. Yeah. So as a reminder, there's just two things in here that we want to look at. These are the default settings for any keyframe inside of After Effects. The spatial and the temporal interpolation both set to linear. Okay. If you're getting a weird kind of wong kind of thing, that's probably
Set to one of the Bezier ones.
continuous Bezier, probably, right? Yeah.
I think it was auto Bezier.
Okay.
Weird. I don't know why it did that.
Yeah.
They didn't all do that, so
And this is something that that's kind of frustrating when After Effects starts auto keying things. Yeah, I know. Because After Effects has this really nice auto key system in there that will take care of some of the keyframe creation for us. However, if we already have, like, if one of our keyframes has been easy eased, like you said, the next keyframe is also going to have some temporal and spatial interpolation automatically applied to it based on the previous keyframe. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought, well, the first one's normal. So
Yeah.
getting too hard. I don't know. It was weird.
Whenever I get a really weird keyframe interpolation error, I go to this menu, turn everything to linear, it puts it back right back.
It did on one.
Yeah.
I had like three that I needed to fix, and it fixed the one, but it wouldn't fix the other. It still did the weird.
Did you try like going into each keyframe individually and doing it, or did you try to do them all together at once?
I was trying to do it individually.
Interesting.
No, I did.
Yeah, I don't know. Without seeing it in front of me, and specifically kind of breaking down the problem, it's hard to say. Yeah.
But I just was like, so about
Yeah.
the past, I was like, I just want to get this done.
Right.
You know?
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. That is frustrating. That is frustrating. I am not a fan of when the computer takes over, and I like to know that I'm in control of everything that's going on. All right. And that goes for everyone. If you run into something that's really odd inside of After Effects, spend some time investigating the problem, see if you can figure it out. If you're really stumped and you're not like slammed right up against the deadline, because I know you guys are all going to do your homework tomorrow, right? Not next Wednesday morning, right? Yeah.
Monday night, actually.
Monday night? No, I'm joking. Okay. If you're not slammed up against the deadline, shoot me an email. Do a screen grab of the problem. Shoot me an email. Be more than happy to help in whatever capacity that I can. And definitely, if you can, try coming to office hours. Yeah. Yeah, it's.
We didn't have a motion.
Yeah, the guys in the lab have a very, very tough challenge in front of them, as they're supporting over 30 different classes in the GCOM department. So there are going to be deficiencies. Not everyone can know everything. As much as I would like to think that the people in the lab staff are super geniuses that know everything about everything, and for all of our classes, no human being has that capacity to know everything about everything. So be patient with them. We all have our specialties. That's kind of one of the great things about the GCOM department, and one of the unfortunate things is that we're so diverse in our skill set. We handle, if you really take a step back and look at it, we do web, print, animation, game design, and 3D all in one department. That's a pretty broad spectrum of subjects to cover within one department. So it shouldn't be a mystery or a surprise, for that matter, that the design lab staff just can't keep up. So so be patient with them. I am your ninja. Okay, come find me. Come find me. All right. And in addition, one of the great things about working inside of After Effects is that the community of people who use After Effects is very, very large. Very, very large. So you're not alone in the universe. If you have a question, jump online, do some investigation. Doing some simple Google searches will usually yield you the answer to your question pretty quickly. There are very, very active, in-depth forums and online communities that directly tackle all the issues that are related to motion graphics. So, there is help out there outside of what we can offer here at SEC, okay? And heaven forbid you actually open the After Effects documentation. Read the manual. There's an idea, right?
Yes, master.
Every once in a while, I get people who are surprised that there is an actual manual. Like, oh wait, there's a manual? Yeah, there's a manual that After Effects comes with. There's even a little help pull-down menu in the app that kind of directs you towards some areas that will help you out. Okay. Anything else? All right. Let's talk about what we're going to be tackling first. And I really want to address the idea of motion tracking today. Over the last 6-7 weeks, we spent a significant amount of time understanding how to create movement inside of After Effects. We've looked at keyframing, we've looked at using the playhead, we've looked at a number of different techniques that allow us to fundamentally go in and create custom movement. Well, what if the movement that we're trying to create needs to precisely match a movement that's already existing in a video asset that we're working with? Okay? Herein lies the challenge. Let me set the stage. I got this lovely little clip. I gave this clip to you guys in the bundle of assets that I blasted to your desktop. It's a little wildebeest guy, okay? And I just made a composition from the default asset. And here's the creative spec, okay? The directors come in and said, Pat, for this documentary clip, I want to have a little thought bubble appear above my little wildebeest's head because I want to see what he's thinking about as he's trucking along the African desert, right? I could go in and animate this by hand. But if you look carefully at the movement and the speed of the wildebeest as they travel from the left side to the right side, it's not entirely consistent. Okay, there are some small, subtle variations in speed, and there's the heads bobbing up and down. I mean, there's a lot of organic movement that's inherent in the video clip that I'm going to want to capture. Perfect opportunity for us to work with the tracking tools. Okay. Perfect opportunity for us to work with the tracking tools. We don't necessarily have to create movement information through keyframes. We can use the tracking system to automatically go in, find and follow, most importantly, certain elements of our shot and apply that information to any number of things. Now, before we get started, let's be good stewards of our scene. Okay, I'm a big believer that whenever we're starting to work with any sort of tracking information, that we automatically go in and initially create the assets that we want to use before we get going. So I'm going to create my thought bubble first, and then we'll go and track all of our stuff. Okay. Now, there are 1,000 different ways to skin this cat. We've looked at a number of different ways to very quickly go in and create content. You could use this in, you could use Photoshop, you can use shape layers, solids. I think I'm just going to make a shape layer. And there we go. This is going to be my little thought bubble. There we go. Thought bubbles kind of look like this. And comic books, something like that. There we go. Let's just go in and sculpt the paths. Oops. Sculpt the path ever so slightly. There we go. Oops, what's going on in your fingers? Excuse me. There we go. Yeah, something like that. That would be kind of fun. I love it. Simple little thought bubble. Okay, I got to be done with this. I could sit here and tweak this all day. The curse of being an artist, right? You're never really done. It's only taken away from you. Shoot me if you really wanted to. What, layers 2 and 3? Or let's see, 1 and 3. Let's reorganize this a little bit. You may be able to throw in a merge in here. Throw in a merge paths. There we go. Yeah. Start to merge them down a little bit. That might be kind of fun. See the merge here took this path and automatically combined it into the other one? Yeah. I love working with those merges. They're a whole lot of fun. Yeah, there we go. So there's my dorky little thought bubble. Okay, we'll just leave it as is. Because now I just want to sit and tweak this all afternoon and make it perfect, but that's just the way it's going to be. So there's my thought bubble, okay? And it's all combined inside of my shape layer. So this is my thought bubble. I know, I'm being silly. So Yeah, you know, inside of your shape layers, we have this add menu over here. This little white circle with a black triangle on the inside. If you click on it, yeah, I just need merge paths. Okay, and these are all the different path transform items that allow us to go in and affect our paths after the fact. Yeah. You only have to do it once. Yeah, I only did it once. Now, it's really important where this merge path element exists inside of our shape layer hierarchy. If you remember going back a couple weeks ago when we talked about shape layers, you know, we have the layer itself, and then the contents of that layer is broken down into a whole series of paths. If you look carefully, we have ellipses 1 through 4, and then we have a master stroke and a master fill item that controls the color of all of the paths. And then at that same level in our hierarchy, we have a merge paths. Okay? So keep that in mind. Oh, one other thing, and I apologize for not mentioning this. Where that merge path shows up inside of the hierarchy does matter. It needs to be at the bottom because it works its way up. Yeah, mine's down here under merge paths. Okay. Shoot, let's just even put in a text layer here. Uh-huh. My little wildebeest is a little confused. Okay, so there it is. There's the assets. Those are the things that I want to use inside of my entire animation. With that said, now that we have everything established, let's start talking about how we can enable our tracking system. We're going to be working inside of a new window in a new series of rules and architectures here in a minute. But I think it's really important to begin our conversation about tracking with an understanding that we are only ever going to be tracking layers. Okay? We're not tracking elements inside of a composition. We're tracking layers, and specifically, we're tracking pixels inside of a layer. So in order for this crazy thing to work, we need to open up my little wildebeest movie inside of its own layer window. So if I double-click on my wildebeest movie, notice that it opened just that element into its own layer window. Okay, this is the most critical part of this entire process, and I guarantee you this is the one stage that you will probably end up missing the first 2 or 3 times out. You got to double click on the video layer and open it into its new layer window. Now I know I'm in a layer window because it says layer wildebeest, but in addition, what is missing visually from this entire scene here? All the thought bubble stuff. So kind of a further reinforcer that we're working at the layer level, not at the composition level. With that said, we now can go over and explore all of our tracking tools. I'm working inside the standard workspace, and you can see that on my screen, my tracker is just chilling down over here in the bottom right-hand corner. If you don't have that tab, don't worry about it. Go to the window pull-down menu at the top of the screen, and you can see that tracker is right there. Tracker. Boom. And that will bring a palette to the surface. Now the tracker window has a number of different parameters that we need to go over, and there's kind of an order of operations here that we have to follow. We're basically setting up a whole series of parameters. We're kind of, in your mind, enabling, if you will, a whole series of computer algorithms that's going to analyze certain pixels within our scene and use that information to drive movement. The order of operations inside of the tracker window begins at the top. And you can see that there's basically 4 options that we have to track with. Track camera, warp stabilizer, track motion, and stabilize motion. Now, if you're working in CS6, I believe it's warp stabilizer that's not going to be there. I don't remember off the top of my head. I remember I think track camera was in CS6. Warp stabilizer, I think, is CC. Warp stabilizer, are they both there? I honestly don't have a memory of what it used to look like. It's perfect. Okay, great. Fantastic. There's some new things in warp stabilizer and track camera that are only available inside of Adobe CC. One of the features that we're going to get to a little bit later today is also a CC only feature. But this basic point this basic point tracking stuff that we're going to talk about here momentarily goes all the way back to like version 6. Not CS6, like version 6. I think we're technically on like version 14 or 15 now of After Effects. So this is old school technology that After Effects has been built around. What we want to do is that we want to track a motion. We don't want to track a 3D camera move. We don't want to do any sort of really crazy stabilizations. We'll talk about warp stabilize here in the future. We want the computer to go through and find a movement for us. Stabilized motion is something that we'd use if you have like a really crazy handheld, shaky camera shot. We can stabilize it a little bit and kind of level it out. Okay, it's kind of neat actually. However, today we're just going to work with track motion. So we need to tell the computer precisely what we want to do. So I want to select the track motion. And the moment we click on track motion, you can see that a number of the options that were grayed out have become active. The motion source should automatically be the asset that we're working with. Okay, so wildebeest. That's quite okay. Tomoko, on your desktop, there's going to be a bundle of assets called tracking assets, and those are the files that we're currently playing with. On your desktop. Computer desktop, I'm sorry. Computer desktop. Yeah. Yep, I can see it. A folder called tracking assets. Okay, so once we enable track motion, couple things pop up. Specifically, current tracker 1. We can have more than one tracker on any video clip, okay? I don't think there's a limit. I've never actually run into how many trackers we can have on one clip, okay? So right now we're working with tracker 1, and you can see inside of our OpenGL viewport in the center, tracker 1 has produced a very specific element, and this is the tracking marker itself. It's the track point 1. It's this guy. Aha. Okay. This little square with the cross in it is incredibly important as it defines precisely the pattern of pixels we're going to ask the computer to follow. And I think that may be the little nugget that you want to hold on to. We're asking the computer to follow a pattern of pixels. So how the video element is shot is going to have a direct influence in the quality of our track. Ideally, the computer wants to have a high contrast feature to follow. So in our case, this is going to work out great because we have little black pixels that define our wildebeest on top of a much lighter background. Very high contrast, rock and roll. This is what the computer wants.
You've done a high contrast throughout?
Yeah. And there's kind of an art form to tracking. It's not as one-click silver bullet as people would make it sound. Okay. In some situations, you might not be able to produce a trackable element, or there might be a significant amount of noise within that trackable element that produces a undesirable result. So go into this process with an open mind. You may have to do this 3 or 4 times to get a good result, but the end result is going to be incredibly accurate if you spend the time and place your tracking points very carefully. So back to our track point 1. There's 3 elements inside of each tracker marker that we need to be aware of. The first is this little cross. That little cross is incredibly important, as that defines the actual pixel pattern, or the actual pixel, that the computer is going to follow. So whatever is on top of that cross is what After Effects is going to analyze throughout all the subsequent frames inside the computer. Now, in addition, I want you to look very carefully at where my cursor is. Notice that when I put my cursor on top of the cross, it goes white, and I can move it around, okay? However, don't do this. This is bad, okay? Because we need all 3 of these little elements to move together as one connected group. We have 2 boxes and a cross. If you slightly move your mouse cursor to either side of the cross, it's going to change to a dark arrow, like that. This is what we want to use, because now, I'm going to zoom out for a second. Now when I left click and drag, you can see that we get a lovely magnification window that shows us precisely where our tracker element is going to be placed inside of the scene. And I want to place it, I don't know, probably, no, not on his butt. The butts are bad. We're going to place it right on his horn, okay? Because remember, we're asking the computer to follow and analyze a pattern of pixels. If the entirety of our tracking area is black pixels, the computer's going to get confused because in its mind, all the pixels look the same. By having a unique shape, like a triangle surrounded by a black triangle surrounded by a whole bunch of light pixels, that's a recognizable pattern that the computer can easily follow. All right, so remember, don't click on the white cross itself. Click just off of it when your cursor turns to a dark arrow. You'll get that lovely magnification window. You can place that tracker where you want it to go, and somewhere right around in there. So the first element is the actual tracker marker itself. We now have two radial boxes that kind of focuses the computer on finding this pattern of pixels inside the computer. The first one is the feature region. And the feature region kind of defines, if you will, the pattern that the computer is going to follow itself. Okay? So we're telling the computer, hey, I apologize. Feature region is this first box right here. Okay? Whatever is inside of this first box is going to be the pattern that the computer is going to try to find in all the frames in our little video file. Okay? If we have a quick animation, we'll probably, if the movement is very fast, if our little wildebeest were like sprinting down the plains of Africa, we might want to make this feature region a little bit bigger. Okay? So this is the area that we're trying to define, that we want the computer to follow. The outside box is the search region. Oops, excuse me, I apologize. Accidentally scroll wheeled in. How dare I? There we go. So this outside box is the search region. So this is the area within inside of our composition, within inside of our layer that the computer is going to try to find the pattern of pixels that's defined in the feature region. Okay? So we're focusing. We're saying only look inside of this square for the horn of our wildebeest. I don't want you to spend all of your cycles analyzing the rest of the frame. Just look at this one little chunk. What I need you to follow is in this little chunk. Your job is to follow it. Okay? So we have the little white cross, which defines the track itself. Okay? We have the feature region, which defines the unique pattern that we're asking the computer to follow. And then the outside box is the search region, which represents the area within inside of our layer that the computer is going to try to find the feature region. Okay? So kind of like boom, boom, boom. Search, feature, cross. Search, feature, cross. We're narrowing the scope of the analysis in each one of these elements. All right, now check it out. Now we have a little bit of a challenge here. We have two horns on top of our wildebeests. I want to make my feature region a little bit smaller. Okay, I really only want the computer to track and follow this guy. And this is too big too, because if I had it out like that, what would the computer probably more than likely find? Both horns. If you look in this particular frame of our animation, both horns look remarkably the same. So in this particular situation, scaling back the search region is probably going to give us a much better results. Okay? We're filtering kind of on the fly. We're visually focusing the computer on the areas that we want it to follow. Something like that. Okay. So that defines the first tracking point. Let's go back down to our tracking interface and explore these other different track elements that we need to look at before we can actually analyze the clip. Now that we define what we want to track, we want the computer to go snag some very important information from us. Okay? And that information is defined in the track type. Right now, the default is set to transform. So the computer is only going to be looking at the position element of our tracker point. So it's only going to be analyzing X and Y position inside the scene. The 2D point tracker inside of After Effects is only going to do X and Y. Tomoko, don't do track camera, do track motion. Track motion. You're welcome. So the transform is only going to do X and Y. We'll get to do camera tracking a little bit later on in the semester, and we'll start capturing that Z information, which is a whole lot of fun. Okay, we're not there yet. We'll get there. Okay. There's also four other different types of tracking trackers, tracking information the computer can snag: stabilize, parallel corner pin, perspective corner pin, and raw. We'll talk about perspective corner pin here in a minute. That's, I think, transform, stabilize, and perspective corner pin are the most used tracking types inside of After Effects, okay? Because often we just want to see, we just want to follow things going left and right. We also want to do screen replacement, which is where perspective corner pin comes into play, and we also want to use After Effects to stabilize our really crazy shaky handheld footage. Okay. We'll leave transform as is, and we'll just look at the XY location of that jobber. And you can also, and this is kind of redundant, but I don't want to do rotation. I certainly don't want to do scale. I just want to track the position of our little point here. Here we go. If you hit rotation, you're actually going to get a second box, which we don't want. So I want to hit undo. All right. And then last but certainly not least, we need to define the location that all of this tracking information is going to be placed. So right now, it's just scanning through all of my stuff, all the different layers inside of my composition, and it's trying to find a natural location for all this information to go on. I don't want all of my tracking data to go onto the text layer that says, huh, okay? I want all of my tracking data to be applied to my thought bubble, okay? The actual shape layer itself. So we get to define where all this tracking information is going to be placed at the conclusion of its analysis. Edit target, you got it. Edit target. Then we'll hit OK. There are some options in the tracking options. These are kind of advanced that will change the algorithm and what the computer is going to be looking to follow. We're not going to get into too much, but if you really want to take the ball and run with it, there's some really great features inside this panel that will allow you to continue to refine the rules and the parameters of your tracker to get you a better result.
Thought bubble is like a shape layer?
Yep, the thought bubble was the shape layer. You got it. I have 3 layers inside of my composition. You can say that I got thought bubble, which is the shape layer. I got huh, which is the text layer. And then I got the wildebeest MOV. Okay. Now, we haven't really done anything yet. We've just set up the parameters for the entire track to take place. So let's ask the computer to analyze our scene. Notice that my playhead's on frame 1. Okay, I definitely would recommend that you track things on frame 1. Okay, and once you're ready to go, check it out. We have these analyze buttons down here. Now these are not play, pause, fast forward, and rewind. I think the guys on After Effects have done us a little bit of a disservice and have designed some icons that look very familiar to other icons that we're used to seeing. These are analyze forward 1 frame, and then analyze backwards, and analyze backwards 1 frame. Okay? We want to analyze forward. Okay? So if we click on this guy, watch what happens. It's going to happen very, very quickly, but check it out. Hit the analyze button, and the computer is going to scan each frame, and it's going to try to do its darndest to find that little horn. There it is. Ta-da! And let's see how it's done. Yeah, it did actually a pretty great job. And the tracker marker follows my little wildebeest as it travels from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. However, look at what we're creating over here. As soon as my lead wildebeest walks off a screen, bummer. So the tracker marker is only going to work inside of the confines of the frame of our layer. This weird visual effect that popped up on your screen. Ah, yes. Someone's turned on your guides. Click on that button right there.
That button?
The one that was immediately to the left. That one. Turn off title and action safe. There you go.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, so if you see some squares, these are actually really important elements. We haven't talked about these yet, but we'll come back to them a little bit later on in the semester. Dylan is in his composition viewer. He's actually working on his lab assignment right now. And he's getting that. Okay? These little outlines. Okay? These are actually really, really, really important outlines for us. They define where our text in our text elements can be placed inside of our screen. They're called the title and action safe zones. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we get closer to working and doing our first kind of major design project here shortly. Okay? You can just turn them off if you don't want them on. Just turn them off. You can click on this button and just click on title action safe and they'll go away. All right. So let's go back into my wildebeest layer and look at what we have here. If you look very carefully, you're going to see one of a couple different things happening inside of your frame. I'm going to zoom in. Check it out. You see these little blue cubes? What are those little blue cubes? Not really. The motion path, and specifically it's keyframes on the motion path. The same UI elements that we're used to seeing inside of the traditional animation pipeline on the motion path are live and kicking here. I bring this up because at the conclusion of every track, the computer's going to generate a whole series of keyframes for us, and they're all encapsulated inside this motion tracker effect. Here's tracker 1. This is the tracking marker that we just created and we just analyzed. And if we expand it one more time, there's track point 1. Now we're getting more specific. And then bam, check it out. Here's all of the keyframes that the computer automatically created for us. Okay? At the conclusion of every track, you are going to get keyframes. I bring this up because keyframes are nothing more than data. Well, we can continue to refine and work with this data after the fact, okay? So what you see is not necessarily what you're going to get at the end of the day. You can continue to refine all this to get a much stronger result at the end. What you see is not what you get, unfortunately, in the video world. Yeah. Why do I have the tracking points and you don't? I don't know. Let's find out. Now, did you analyze your clip? Yeah, looks like you did. Take your playhead.
Which one?
Yeah, this actually brings us into an interesting preference that people usually change inside of After Effects. If you look carefully inside of my composition viewer, you can only see a couple of the keyframe datas, a couple little icons that represents each one of the keyframes downstairs on the attached point value. Some of you guys are probably seeing a whole kind of line of keyframes inside your composition, and others, like Stephanie, aren't seeing any. So we have kind of an inconsistent kind of experience here. Let me show you the one parameter that controls this experience. It's inside of your After Effects preferences, okay, and it's under, I think, display. If you're on PC, I believe you have to go to the edit window, and it's in preferences down there. But on the Mac, you just go to After Effects preferences, and it's either in displays, yeah, it's in display. And these are the options that are going to control how many of those keyframe indicators you're going to see inside both your layer and composition window. As you can see on mine, I've changed it to no more than 4 keyframes. If it's on all keyframes, which is what I believe the default is, check it out. Let's hit OK. Boom, and now we get that crazy line of keyframes going through our scene. So you can change this to kind of filter how much keyframe information you want to consume at any given time.
Move the keyframe up and down just to screw with it?
You can, absolutely. And Arthur brings up a really good point. Nothing's written in stone here. This is kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier. What you see is not necessarily what you get at the end. We can continue to refine all this. Okay? Say again? You still don't have anything. Okay, let's check it out. No more than do all keyframes. See what happens. Yeah, okay. Not the end of the world. Let's see what's changed here, what's different. The computer's still doing what is mission accomplished. Let's see. Why are you not seeing your motion paths? What is going on? where it says View Motion Tracker Points. Go into that pull-down menu and do None. Oh, that wasn't it in your mind. Because now we're still not seeing our motion path. Interesting. Let me see what's happening here, Stephanie. That is a really good one. Is your layer selected? Yeah. Can you go in and select one of these channels and see what you get? Any one of the channels that has keyframe information on it? No, you're still not getting it. I really don't know. Well, it's not a showstopper because it's still working. It would be nice to visualize what's going on here. Let's do this. Let's change your workspace from all panels. Let's go to standard. All right. And someone has screwed with this a lot, actually. Let's go to window, workspace, and then do reset standard. All right. Now, double click on your wildebeest layer and let's see if it's back. And it most certainly is not. That's odd. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know. Let's try this.
There's other guy hiding over here.
Yeah. Let's go into your direct selection tool, the arrow. Does that make an impact on it? Because you were in the shape layer tool. I don't know. That's weird. I honestly don't know. That's a new one for me. Okay, well, it's not a showstopper. We can still go forward. You have actually tracked something, Stephanie. You're just not getting the visual feedback that tells you the quality of your result. Okay. All right. So what if your computer has done an error or has made an error and you see a little interesting little spike in your motion path, or all of a sudden your tracker goes to a really weird part within the frame? That's okay. We can refine this. We can fix this. As you can see, what we're fundamentally getting here is keyframes. Okay? You can grab these keyframes and place them wherever you want. This often happens when on one frame the computer gets confused and we need to go back in and fix it. Here's my suggestion to you. We have to analyze a whole series of frames, and we're almost never going to be able to get away with doing just a single analysis of our scene. We're probably going to have to go through and do a whole series of passes. This is kind of an organic workflow to a certain degree. There's an order of operations that we have to follow as we start at the top of our tracker window and move our way down to the bottom. But once we get to this analyze section, now it turns into kind of a more visual process where we're looking at what the computer is developing and refining the location of our tracking points to yield the result that we're after. You could absolutely go in and fix a number of these little hiccups by hand by dragging the keyframe and bringing it back down. That's cool. Or, and here's what I would suggest, what if you have a couple of them that are off? Move your playhead to the frame that's immediately, it's kind of like right around. Let's go up. Oops, excuse me. Let's do, yeah, there it is. So move your frame, or move your playhead to the frame where your computer is like good, okay? The last good frame in your analysis of all your tracking data, okay? Then hit the track forward one frame button. Don't analyze all the frames from this moment. Just analyze forward one frame, okay? We're kind of focusing our efforts to only asking the computer to follow the information that we need it to fix. Boom, and it found it. I'll do one more frame, it did it again, and it did it again, okay? Your tracking data is not locked in. It's not written in stone here, okay? There are going to be small little hiccups in tracking forward and backing will help you refine and kind of iron out these problems, sometimes by hand, other times you can just ask the computer to analyze the problem frames again. at the core of what we're doing here is that we're asking the computer to take over and do some hardcore mathematical analysis. It's going to mess up. As much as I would like to think that computers are perfect, they're far from it. Okay? They're going to mess up. We have to go in and kind of focus the computer on establishing the correct tracking information on the areas that it screwed up on. All right. So I'm happy with the result that I've gotten here, but I need to do something with it. Right now, all of this tracking data is totally encapsulated on this motion tracker effect. It actually has not been applied to my thought bubble yet. And here's the glaring error that a lot of people make when they're first learning how to track. They forget that there's an apply button. They do the analysis and they get really excited about, yeah, I got some tracked information. Woo, this is great. But then they don't ever apply it to anything. Okay? So let's apply it. Once we hit that apply button, the computer's going to go through and it's going to analyze the target that we established a moment ago. So we'll apply it. We'll get a little popover, and we'll be able to continue to define which transform axis information that we're going to apply to our target. So again, we can filter the information. Instead of applying both the left, right, and up and down position values of our little wildebeest, I could just do left and right. Okay? I can tell the computer, hey, only apply this information to the X position value of my thought bubble, or vice versa. Or we can do both, X and Y. We'll leave it at the defaults of X and Y. We'll hit OK. And then it will automatically bring us back to our composition viewer. Let's play the clip. Yeah. All right. Woo! Mission accomplished. Or is it mission accomplished? Does that look right? Huh? Do what again?
Would you change the anchor point? Is that it?
Yes, absolutely.
What did you do?
So all I've done is I've hit the apply button. Okay? Well, initially, I set my target, motion target, to thought bubble. So now, when we hit that apply button, all the tracking information is going to be applied to the thought bubble layer inside my composition. But if you look at the result, not exactly what I had in mind, right? I have a little bit of a challenge. Arthur, what's the problem here?
Anchor point.
Anchor point. And this is another kind of landmine that blows up in people's faces, okay? This position information that we just captured with our tracking system is going to be applied to the anchor point of our target layer. So we need to change some things. Right now, if I was to select my thought bubble layer inside of my comp, check it out. My anchor point, the anchor point for that thought bubble is right on that horn now, okay? It is perfectly stuck and glued to the wildebeest video layer, okay? So how do I get my thought bubble to go where I want it to go? Select the layer and move it. Yeah, you can give that a go, okay? But that's going to change the location of your anchor point. If you look at the thought bubble, let's expand it. Check it out. On the transform here, check it out. We now have position information on every single frame here. Check it out. Look at all the keyframes that were automatically created when I hit that apply button. So changing the position of the layer is not going to work. Anchor point, absolutely. Got to change the anchor point. Now, if you remember a couple weeks ago, we were talking about different ways of adjusting the location of our anchor point. And I mentioned that the pan behind tool is a great way for us to visually move the location of the anchor point. Well, do I want to move the location of the anchor point? No. What do I want to do? Yeah, you guys got it. We basically want to move the image independently from the location of the anchor point, right? This is where going in and adjusting the anchor point values down here comes into play, okay? The anchor point is going to stay in its relative position, or its position relative to the video layer. And the thought bubble itself, these different paths, are going to move behind it. See? The anchor point is staying where it's at. And now I get to go in and customize where I want my little thought bubble to go. Yeah, and that's it. Absolutely. We can simply just parent the text layer to the thought bubble. Animation done. Let's just do it real fast. I'll grab my little pick whip for my text layer, drag it on top of my thought bubble. And there it is. Huh? Huh? I love it. Mission accomplished. Question? Yes. Yeah, and let me see if I can kind of force my example to do that exact same thing. Because the position information that we captured from our tracker only goes until right there. If you look at mine, these little dotted blue outlines represent our layers. They also stop. Let's see if I can force it to go and do what oops, wrong way. Let's do this. Yeah. So what if I wanted my thought bubble to continue to move off screen? At the core of what we've done here, we've created keyframes that have been applied to the position channel of our little thought bubble. At this moment in time, the keyframe data is all the same. So here's the easy way. Just go in and manually do it. Manually animate that thought bubble, continuing to remove itself out of the frame. Okay. So go in, I can grab all these keyframes. Just going to get rid of them. Okay, I'll go to that last keyframe, and I'll physically animate the position of that layer so that it follows my wildebeest off the frame. This is one of the inherent limitations of working inside of the tracking system in After Effects, is that the point tracker is only going to create transform information on the pixels inside the composition, obviously where the pixels are. It's not going to track points that are outside of the frame. Okay, so if we have something crossing out of the frame, we either have to use a different set of technology, and there are technologies out there that will allow us to get the result that we want, or we can animate it by hand. Pretty cool, huh? All right, questions. Yeah, Stephanie, go ahead. Great. Your thought bubble's not moving. Okay, did you apply the thought bubble or the track data to the thought bubble?
Yeah.
No.
It was.
Right now, the track data that you got is set to raw. Track type is set to raw. Go to transform. There we go. And then all the position stuff comes up. Okay, cool. Target, thought bubble. Now hit apply. There we go. So now we're analyzing. Looks good, looks good, looks good. There it is. Now let's apply it. There we go. That's good? Yep. Perfect. Now you'll have to edit the anchor point inside the channel section of the timeline to get the result that you see on the screen. Cyrus, what's up? Okay. Any other questions on this? No, everyone's clear.
So actually, it's like a change the words and then the bubble position, or to end of the frame. I don't see.
Yeah, so go to the frame where the tracking data ends, where the bubble stops its movement.
Okay.
I'd go back a couple. Go back. See how it's not moving?
probably
Right in there. That's the last frame. Okay. Go to your shape layer, because that's where all the tracking information, or that's where all the position information's on, right?
Okay.
Yeah, transform, down there, good. There's position, now grab all those keyframes. There you go, that works, and delete them. Yeah, delete them. Cool, now go to the last frame of your composition here. Oh, leave that where it was.
Sorry.
Yeah, move your playhead to the last frame of your video. Right in there. Now just manually move it off. Just manually animate it. All right. Yes, sir. Zach, what's up?
Mine doesn't seem to be tracking properly.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Let's take a look. See. Ah, yes. Okay. Zoom in some. I think your problem is that your feature region in your search region is way too small. Now put the cross right there. That's good. Now I'd make your feature region just a little bit bigger. Okay, try it like that.
Okay, and then hit this.
Yep.
Should zoom out, right?
Yeah, I'd zoom out. Yep. Ah, there
See,
it goes.
It follows the body.
That's
though.
okay. Okay, so it fails at some point.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's find the moment of failure.
Okay.
Yeah, it drifts right around in there. No, I have to get specific with it. Let's see, right about in there. That's okay. Zoom in a little bit more, and let's do this. Let's refine. I can see probably why it's getting confused, because if you look where the white cross is, it's kind of in the body of the horn.
Okay.
What if we went back to frame 1 and put that little cross on the top of the horn?
Right there?
Now, yeah, kind of put it back in the center. So I want you to put your mouse cursor right there, so they move as a group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, let's give that a try. See what happens. Yeah, and then it drifts again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else we can do here to get the result that we're after. Let's go back to. Zoom in on your tracker again. Let's make your search region a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's try that. Welcome to the art of tracking. You got to try a number of different things to get to what you want.
Oh, okay.
That's better.
That's a lot better.
That's a lot better.
Yeah.
That's a lot better.
Failed at
There's-
the end, but okay, I can play
Yeah,
with that.
well, it's not so much a failure. Just it's not going to go off the frame.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no pixels outside of the frame, so it's only look for pixels.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions? Yeah.
So I take it we'll never follow a true curve.
What do you mean by that?
It looks like from frame to frame, it's a linear movement.
Yeah.
So will it ever be able to follow a curve or not?
No. Well, technically, yeah, it's going to be a curve, but if you really think it's going to be jagged, right? It's not going to be. Well, and a curve is nothing more than a whole series of points that are connected by a line. You know, to get a perfect curve, you have an infinite amount of points to define that line. So technically, yes and no. It's not going to follow a Bezier curve, let's put it that way. Yeah. That would be rad, though.
Is the thought bubble still like editable, like opacity and all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, because all we've done is just mess with the position channel.
Okay.
That's the only thing that's been affected. So we can go in and continue to mess with the shape of all of our paths, the scale, the rotation, the opacity. The only thing that we can't really touch right now is the position information, because it has all the keyframe data that we applied from the tracker.
Okay.
That's it. So we get a lot of flexibility still. I parented it. Okay. All right, other questions? Okay, cool. Let's kick it up a notch. All right. I'm going to work with my MRI computer asset that I gave you in that folder. I'll make a new composition from that asset by dragging that asset onto the Make New Composition button at the bottom of the bin. I can't recommend that you guys get into this habit enough, okay? Start building that muscle memory. Tomoko. Start building that muscle memory. Tomoko. Okay, as a reminder, because we want to make a composition that perfectly matches all of the elements of this asset, okay? So if you just left click and drag it onto that button right there, it's going to make a composition from that asset. Say again?
You right click and do the same thing?
I'm not really sure. I really don't know. I've only ever done it that way. That's not to say that you can't do it. Maybe new comp from selection? Yes, you can. There it is. Yeah. Okay. So let me get rid of some of this stuff. All right. So this time, let's take a look at what we have in front of us. So we're going to pretend that we are the motion graphics artists on a documentary. And inside this documentary, we're taking a behind-the-scenes look at the medical industry, and we're going to use this shot of an MRI imaging room in the final result. Our client loves it, but then they come back to us after a series of reviews and says, Pat, this is fantastic. I love what you've done here. This is a great shot. It completely illustrates and visualizes what this space is all about, but we can't show the contents of that computer monitor. We can't have patient information on television, so you have to do something. Either remove the shot or cover up that computer monitor. And me being the good motion graphics artist, I go, thumbs up for rock and roll. I can do this, right? That's no problem until I hit the space bar and play the clip. Okay, going good, going good, going good. Uh-oh, wait, the camera is moving here. And then, kind of towards the middle of the clip, there's going to be a much larger camera movement. There it is. See how the camera moves ever so slightly? This is bad. This is bad because now we have an organic camera movement that's driven by the tripod, the camera on the tripod. We have to track this now. We have to have the computer go in and figure out where the corner of the computer screen is so that we can interactively place a replacement screen on top of the image itself. See, watch. You can see that it moves kind of like right there, and then there's another movement right over here somewhere, I believe, too. Yeah, right there. There's the bigger movement. Okay, we got to fix this. We got to fix this. Great opportunity for us to work with the tracker inside of After Effects. So let's double click on the MRI comp layer, and let's start working with this a little bit. Once again, we're going to track the motion. Okay, we're going to track motion. This time, the type of tracker is not going to be transform. We want to do perspective corner pin. The perspective corner pin tracker is going to ultimately give us 4 different points that we can ask the computer to track for us inside the contents of our frame.
What's parallel?
Parallel is only going to give you 2. Okay, I really don't use parallel that often because when you're doing planes, if you're trying to get a flat image on top of another flat image, especially with video files, you want to be able to do the perspective distortion. Okay, which is going to allow, parallel is going to allow you to slant your image like this, okay? But perspective is going to allow you to distort your image like this.
Like 3D-ish.
Like 3D-ish, yeah. So let's do perspective corner pin. And now, check it out. You can see we have 4 different tracking points available to us. We're going to go through the exact same series of steps that we went through earlier. The process of applying these tracking points to the contents of our frame is identical, okay? The rules are still the same. The output is going to be the one thing that's drastically different from one to another. So check it out. I'm going to grab track point 1, and I think I'm going to put it right here in the corner. We have some black pixels right next to some white pixels. Life is good. We have a high contrast area. We really, really, really like corners, okay? Triangular patterns are easy for our computer to analyze and understand. I'll do that one down over there. That one's going to give me some issues, I have a hunch. Oops, looks like I messed up a little bit here. That's the one that I want. And I grabbed the wrong point over here. I grabbed the bezel of the monitor, not the frame, not the actual screen itself. Something perhaps like that. There we go. Awesome. So there's my setup. I'm ready to rock and roll. Oh, I didn't do it on frame 1. Bad Pat, bad Pat. Let's try again. All right, now let's analyze forward, see what we get. Yes, look, the computer is doing such a fantastic job of finding the edges of the computer frame. And we get a little jitter in there, but that's okay. Aha, huzzah, that looks good. Wonderful, I like this. I like this very much, okay? If we play back our clip, you can see that each one of those tracking points, all 4 of them, is perfectly glued the corners of our frame. Now we have a couple issues here and there, but they're not insurmountable. Let's get this tracking information applied to our target, which in our case is going to be this lovely, lovely heart monitor MOV that I gave you guys. So this is going to be the content that's going to be replaced. Or excuse me, this is the replacement content for our little video clip. Let's get that into our comp, put that on top. And then now I can go back into our MRI layer and edit the target of it. Heartmonitor.mov, life is good. Let's apply the data. It's going to think about it for a second. And huzzah, this is what's happened here. Yeah, pretty cool. Yes?
That was a dot underscore heart. Maybe that's not the right one.
That's not the right one. Yeah.
I just noticed because it was like, oh, it can't support, it's not supported.
There
I
we
don't
go.
know.
Oh,
Where is it?
it's probably, it's in that folder, tracking assets. Scroll down some.
Oh.
There it is. Yep.
Maybe, oh,
Heart
there.
MO. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, whenever you see like a dot or an underscore file coming from a Mac, that's a Mac thing. That's the way the Mac system kind of, manages its files. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So with the perspective corner pin tracking type, you can see the result that we're getting. We're completely covering up the computer monitor, and the computer's automatically applying all that tracking information to the 4 corners of our little new image. Okay? It's actually doing a whole bunch of things simultaneously. If we examine the result of this entire operation, the heart monitor MOV file has been affected. Okay? The computer has automatically applied the corner pin effect, and it's taken all of that tracking information and applied it to the 4 corners of that effect. Okay? That's what's happening. Very, 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 very simple. Questions? Are people getting this result?
I like it.
Yeah, pretty neat, huh? Pretty neat. Didn't work. Let's find out why it didn't work. All right. So you tracked it, right? Mm-hmm. Grab your MRI and target. Oh, we need to have that heart monitor asset down in our timeline. Perfect. Good. Now, yep. Or go to your layer. I apologize. Your layer window. And now, edit target, right? Because we got to define where all this tracking information is going to go. Yep, heart monitor, brilliant. Okay, let's apply it. Give it a second. Bam, Yahtzee. That looks right. That looks right. Now, did you apply the stuff?
Yeah, no, not yet.
Negativo. Okay.
Okay, so
Yep.
this is-
Yep.
Oh, I see.
There it is. Good job. Good job. Other questions? All right. We have some issues here, though, don't we? What are some of the visual issues that we have at hand?
You can still see the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back to the 1980s when all of our computer screens were these gigantic CRT televisions that were massive, right? and they have these big, huge glass, curved glass fronts on all the computer screens. We're trying to put a square image on a curved computer screen, okay? And we're having some light some issue, some light leak out of the bottom of our effects. So it really isn't all that integrated, like at all, right? It definitely looks as though we've taken a video file and just kind of pasted it on top of our computer screen. So what are we to do? Any suggestions?
Warp it.
Warp it. I like it. Warp it a little bit. Yeah, blurring and lowering the opacity is just going to change its transparency. We're not trying to make it more transparent or opaque. We need to change the shape of this image from something that's like the square to something else. So let's check it out. Here's some solutions, okay? I got my heart monitor working, and our effects menu has a whole series of effects. Now, some of the lab assignments that you've been fiddling around with have been inspiring you to go into this effects pull-down menu and explore all the different effects that are in After Effects. And I'm going to go through each one of them here in a minute. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to go through each one of them because that would be like absolutely crazy, right? Some of you guys are probably like, oh my God, you're going to go through every single effect. No, I'm not going to go through every single effect because there are hundreds of effects inside of After Effects. And each new version, this list grows almost exponentially. And they often kind of, they make my life really miserable by reshuffling where all of these effects go inside the hierarchy. And they rename the effects from time to time, which is like, are you kidding me, right? It just makes, So this is a nightmare environment for us to work in. It really, really is. But there are some all-stars in here. There's some rock stars that we need to draw our attention to. Of course, there's the color correction series of effects. We're going to have a dedicated project that forces us to explore all of the color correction tools. Okay. There's also blur and sharpen. But I think the bigger picture idea here is that a number of the effects that we're used to seeing in the other Adobe apps are here inside of After Effects. Okay. So if you're used to seeing an effect over in Photoshop, Photoshop and After Effects are kindred spirits. They work and play very well together. 9 times out of 10, that exact same effect is here inside of After Effects, okay? So like all the blur and sharpen effects that we're used to working with over in Photoshop are here, and then some. There's even some more in here that we don't have access to over in Photoshop. Distort, these are some fun ones in here. All right, and we're going to go, let's see, the one that I want to work with, and I always forget its name, so please bear with me. It is not warp. I always forget it. It always takes its Bezier warp. It is not Bezier warp. It always takes me a good 4 or 5 failures to get the right one. Mesh warp? Mesh warp. Mesh warp, okay? And if you look at what's going on here, it's going in and it's slicing my entire layer into a whole series of quadrants, okay? If you look at the effects control palette, you can see very quickly how the computer is going through, or what parameters the computer is using to go through and slice up our image. Okay, we've got rows and columns. And let's just put this down to like 2 by 2, okay? There we go. My computer's thinking. Oh, it really is. There we go. Let's put it up to 2. There we go. And now, if we click on any one of these tangent handles, see how we can warp the image? Kind of not. Interesting. It is warping it, but it's not really warping it the way we want to warp it, right? It's not necessarily giving me the result that I'm after. I bring this up because there's an order of operations inside of After Effects that we need to honor. Right now, the first effect that the computer is going through and applying is the corner pin effect. The second one that it's evaluating is mesh warp. What if we were to reshuffle the order? What if we were to do the mesh warp first and then do the corner pin? Okay. Now, anything that we make a change over on our border is immediately going to update inside and more accurately on our computer screen. So I can kind of bring it down some, or maybe I can grab this outside one. I'll do this. Let's go into mesh warp. I want to put my rows and columns to 1 by 1. There we go. And now I can just grab the corners here and just kind of pull it down. So the order that all of your effects show up inside of your effects control palette is going to determine the sequence that After Effects is going to use when evaluating all of the different effects. I want to do the mesh warp first and then have the computer do the perspective corner pin. That way, the deformation that I'm doing on side my screen here looks perfect. It looks precisely the way I want. I can just pull these edges out. Something like this. Yeah, not too bad. Let's grab mesh warp once more. Grab it. There it is. Grab the corners. Ta-da! Pretty cool. So the order of operations, or the order of your effects in your effects control palette, is going to determine the order that they're going to be evaluated when the After Effects rendering engine fires in. You can reshuffle them. You can reshuffle them. Pretty cool, huh? Am I just blowing your mind tonight? A little bit?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. All right. Let me really blow your mind. Yeah. Okay, this is an Adobe CC only feature. Okay? I know. Get CC, man. It's cool. Okay? This is not part of a homework, but it is part of the technology that I wanted to show you guys today, because the tracking system inside of After Effects extends into other areas inside of our Adobe After Effects environment. We've been looking at it through the ideas of placing new images in an existing image. What if I want to subtract a portion? What if I wanted to mask out a very important part of my scene? Let me show you. Let's bring open that Axiom shot, that car commercial shot that I gave you on our bundle of assets this week. Here it is. I'll drag it onto the Make New Composition icon. All right, pretty neat. What if, so this is the Axiom. You're actually going to be using this asset for your lab work this week, okay? What if I wanted to go in and, let's see here. What if I wanted to go in and completely track, oh, I don't know. The windshield would be maybe possible. We can give that a try. Let's do one of these grill things here, because it's black surrounded by white. That's high contrast. That's rock and roll. That's what we want. Okay. What if I wanted to cut a hole in that? What if I wanted to mask out that specific part of my shot and put something else in there, like a picture of me doing like thumbs up or something? Okay. Well, without the tracking system at play, we'd have to go in on every single frame and animate our path. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to grab my Axiom, and I want to zoom in so I can see the area that I want to work with. And this is it right here. Grab my Axiom. I want to grab my pen tool and just very quickly define the area that I want to work in. And I'm intentionally not doing a very great job. I'm going to go in and just change my mask to subtract. And now we've punched a hole in it. The white that's being generated here is the background color of our composition. To prove that to you, let's go into our composition settings and change it to red. There we go. And now it's red. So we've now made a hole in this video file. We've masked that part of our area. Well, if we go through and analyze the subsequent frames here, yeah, a little bit of a problem. The mask doesn't move. I want the mask to move. I don't want to have to go in on every single frame, okay, at 30 frames a second. This is almost 6.5 second shot, okay? There's no way in the world I'm doing 200 of these things, okay? This is called rotoscoping, when we have to go in and animate a mask on a frame by frame basis, okay? And it's a monumental pain in the rear end. You're going to love and hate rotoscoping. It's kind of a rite of passage. Everyone has to rotoscope something. I used to make my After Effects class rotoscope something, and it was a really great project, and I loved doing it to you guys, and everyone hated it, so I stopped doing it because it was mind-numbing. It really is. It was a really cool project. It was this stop-motion animation of this little telescope that was like walking down the street, okay? But, last time I checked, telescopes don't walk, okay? And so they had to have a puppeteer kind of helping. There's some support rods. And we had to go in and rotoscope those support rods on the puppet to make it look like it was walking down the street under its own power, right? Well, you got to go in on every single frame and like paint out all those support rods, mask it out, paint it out. Okay, boo, this is bad. I loved making you guys do that, but you guys revolted, and your predecessors revolted, so I no longer do it. But I do want to show you some new technology that will make rotoscoping a little bit easier, okay? This is a After Effects CC only kind of feature. And, well, actually, before I go too much further, let me just quickly define what the old process is like. What we'd have to do in the past is go into the mask itself. If you notice that we have, once we expand, it's a little disclosure triangle here. We have 4 different channels, one of which is mask path. Our entire masking system in After Effects is built around the exact same vector shape engine that we've been working with up until now. They're identical. They're all vector paths, which is very cool. And if I click on the little stopwatch, I now can go in and animate each one of these points along the path. Okay? So for example, I could go in, grab those 2 points, move them over there, grab these 2 points, move them over there, and the computer will try to do its best to interpolate. You can already see my hell, where I'd have to go in almost on a per point, per frame kind of basis here and make this work. Because the shape of this opening is changing as the perspective of my camera is also changing with inside of the shot. Boo. This is horrible, right? This is one of those things. This is whenever you have to rotoscope something, you earn your paycheck. You really do. You really earn your paycheck those unfortunate many hours that you will spend doing this. Okay. I had a project. This is a number of years ago. This is 4 or 5 years ago now, and I was editing this television show, and one of the interviewees of the show was a very nice woman, and I forget what I think it was one of the cop shows that I did, one of the police shows, and we were filming her in her office, right? And I wasn't there, I wasn't part of the shoot, but it came back to me, and I did all the editing, I did all the motion graphics, and I did all the work, and I sent it off to the client. They said, thumbs up, this is awesome. However, right, and this always makes me cringe when they go, great job, Pat, this is fantastic, we love it, but ... whatever follows the but ... always usually is like dollar signs, okay? Or gray hairs, headaches for me, right? And they said, but if you look very carefully behind this one particular shot or behind this one particular interviewee, there is one of those like alarm clocks, those like alarm clocks, and it's flashing 12 over and over and over again. And what happened when the production guys came to film her in her office, they unplugged all the lights to plug in their studio lights to do a professional lighting setup. And you guys know this probably from home. Whenever like the power goes out and you lose, all your clocks flash 12, right? They reset. So when they plugged her lamp back, or when they plugged her alarm clock back in, it was flashing 12. Okay, 12 over and over and over again. And they said, Pat, is there anything that you can do to make this not flash 12? So I said, let me look at the shot. Let me see what I can do, and I'll get back to you. So I looked at the shot, and it would have been possible if the woman had not been, if her head had not been like half occluding the alarm clock. We only saw half of the alarm clock, which isn't in itself bad, but this lady had really curly, kind of big, fluffy hair. And I went, sure, I can do this, okay? Because you always want to tell your clients that you can do things. Don't be the person that says no. Don't be the no person, because that'll be the last time they ever talk to you, okay? Always say yes. But if you don't want to do something, because I did not want to do this, okay? This would have required probably about 100 hours of rotoscoping, because I would have gone into each frame and I would have had to, custom roto all the little gaps in her hair to make it look realistic. I was not going to do that, okay? That is not in my best interest or in my patience to do something like that. So I wrote him an email back and said, yeah, absolutely no problem. I can do this, but it's going to cost like $10,000. I overbid the entire edit, And surprisingly, they came back within like a half hour and said, you know what, we don't care. We're going to live with it. And I was like, yeah, I knew you were going to live with it. Because I'm not fixing that. I'm not fixing the mistake that the camera guys made. No, I'm not doing that.
That's funny.
If I had this technology, I may have said, yeah, no problem. Okay? Because rotoscoping by hand is a nightmare. It really is. Okay?
You would do this to your students just to troll them?
Yeah. It's a rite of passage. Well, it used to be a rite of passage. Now they're automating it. Now the lords of Adobe have said, yeah, this is stupid, and we don't want anyone to do this again. Because it really is. It's a monumental waste of our time. Okay? I mean, if you think about it, I really feel sorry for the guys that were responsible for doing all the lightsabers in the Star Wars films. Okay? Yeah, because in all the Star Wars films, I mean, the lightsabers, they were just, the lightsaber, the hilt, and then a wooden stick that came out the end, right? Well, they had to remove that wooden stick, okay? From every frame that there's a lightsaber on, okay? There used to be, I don't know if there is now, but there used to be an entire department down at ILM called Saber, whose sole responsibility was to rotoscope freaking lightsabers out. That's all they did, 24/7. Boo. I don't do that. No. Okay. Yeah. So there's some new technology in After Effects CC that makes our lives a little bit easier. Okay. Check it out. If you were to right-click on a mask, and this is new, we get a pop-over that says Track Mask. So it's going to go in and it's going to try to find the unique pattern and pixels that this mask is establishing, and try to find and distort our mask to the video. And let's just do it real fast. We'll hit Track Mask. It will bring open our tracker, but notice that it's almost a little bit truncated, right? We don't have all the options that we're used to seeing in the point tracker. Now we're only getting the options that's specific to masks, okay? And most importantly, we get to choose the method. Of course, we want to choose perspective in this particular situation because our image, is distorting like this within inside of our frame. So I want to leave it at perspective, and let's just analyze it. Let's just see how well it does. I have no idea if this is going to work. It's doing an okay job. Yeah, it kind of goes off there. Let's stop where it is. And I think it tried. It actually did. It did an okay job. I'm going to go back. Let's go back to frame 1 here. And I want to nuke all of these keyframes. And what you're just getting is just keyframes, okay? So you can go back and do this 1,000 times. I want to try making my mask just a little bit bigger so that it's outside of that black area. Because really kind of what it's doing here is that each one of these control vertices is acting like a tracker marker, okay? So it's still going through the same process of evaluation that we're used to seeing in the other system. And let's see if it yields me a better result. So track mask, perspective. Let's go forward. Yeah, now it's doing a much better job. Much better job. Check, and then it goes haywire, okay? Where it goes haywire, and that's not the end of the world, because I can go back in. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's find that frame, okay? And let's just physically grab those points, pull them back down, and then we'll track forward from this one point. So it's a help. This is a huge asset for us, okay? Let's track forward from there and see what we get. Let's stop it because we're starting to drift a little bit here. It'll overwrite it. Yeah, you got it. And backwards, too. So you can do it forwards and backwards. And you can see just within, it's actually still evaluating it. Let me stop it. Yeah, it's doing, stop. There we go. It's doing a pretty decent job. I mean, for an auto tracking system, it's not perfect in this particular situation, but it's a whole lot better than the alternatives, okay? Now at least I have something that I can continue to refine and work with than nothing, okay? It took me all of about 2 seconds to set this up, so I like that. We're going to see this in action again in the near future. This is kind of the teaser, of what's coming up next, okay? For tracking masks and masking. Okay, questions? Let's take a break. Let's take a small break, quick break, 10-minute break. Okay, so let's hit it. Let's get back to it. There's one final thing I want to talk about real quickly tonight, and this is definitely is applicable for our homework this week. One of the things that you're going to be doing for your homework this week is kind of finishing off that night vision shot that you worked on a couple weeks ago. Okay. If you look at the sample, and let's just jump over to renderography real fast and look at the conclusion of this project. Here we go. Let's go in the homework section of this week's stuff. Night vision part 2. This is what we're striving to complete. So we're going to round out the effect that we started a couple weeks ago in our lab. Remember the assignment where we had all those shape layer blocks that were animated in and revealing the cityscape behind this? Well, this is the conclusion of that project. Hopefully you still have that project file lying around and you can build from it. This is what we're after. Okay.
So the assets for this one different from the original, or they pretty much the same one?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Hedge your bets and re-download them, okay, and compare and contrast the bundle of assets. I don't remember if I gave you the sound effect files and the text and the titles in that original bundle.
There was a sound effects file and there was the night vision text.
Great, sounds like you got everything then. Yeah, sounds like you got everything then. So this is what we're striving to complete this week, and the conclusion of this assignment comes directly from the application of track maps. Of that we already know, but I want to talk a little bit about this guy over here, and let me turn my volume on. Because if you watch very carefully, see this little line over here? It's animating in tune with the music, or excuse me, in time with the music. It's taking the amplitude of the audio waveform and using that to drive the size of those little capsules. And I want to show you how that works. It's pretty neat. Okay, it's really neat actually.
Are you streaming?
I am streaming, yeah. So check this out. This is actually really kind of fun. Let's jump back over into After Effects. I've already created a new composition, and I've included that sound effect file inside my composition. I've expanded all the disclosure triangles, and I've disclosed the waveform section of the audio clip, and you can see the audio waveform chilling down here in our timeline. And what I want the computer to do is to go in and find all the high points. Basically analyze the waveform and take the frequencies, the frequency of sound to drive the movement of an effect. Okay? It's really easy to do this. Let me show you how it works. Okay? The first thing that we got to do is apply this effect to a layer. So I want to create a new solid. Doesn't matter what color. I'm going to make it comp size. Because all effects need to be applied to a layer, okay? So let's do effect. It's under generate, I think, and it's audio spectrum. Audio spectrum. Now, once you generate the audio spectrum, you can see that our red layer has been made transparent, and this new asset, the new audio spectrum, is inside of our comp, okay? Now, if we were to hit the spacebar as is, yeah, ain't nothing happening, right? Because we haven't wired in all of this together yet, okay? If you look at the audio spectrum effects, there's a number of things that we can use in here to drive the result that we want, okay? We got to start at the top. Specifically, we don't want it to look at the red solid for the audio waveform. We want to use the Cool Groove MOV. And the moment we do that, check it out. Now you can see, as I scrub through, that the effect has come to life. The capsules on this audio spectrum are growing in the. Say again? So all I did was I applied the audio spectrum effect to a red solid, and then in addition I have the Cool Groove.mov layer in here, and in the audio layer, just make sure it's looking to Cool Groove. So we're kind of loading in the audio wave file into the effect, and now what I scrubbed through in time. It's analyzing the waveform, and it's using the frequency, or excuse me, the amplitude of all the audio frequencies to determine the scale of each one of those capsules. Okay? Now, there's a lot of customization that we can continue to do with this effect, including changing how the colors and the shape, how the shapes are created on the effect itself. This is kind of neat. It gives us an opportunity to really customize this and make an effect that's kind of rad. Okay? So for example, we can establish the starting frequency. So if we really wanted to isolate maybe just the high values, I can increase that value. But we're working with some pretty basic stuff. So I'm going to lower it. The end frequency will allow us to continue to compress the threshold of the effect. Yeah, kind of neat. So just fiddle around with it till you find something that looks cool. Frequency bands, we can just increases the resolution of the effect. So that's kind of neat. Maximum height, as you would imagine. Audio duration. This is, I wouldn't really mess around with it all that much, but you're more than welcome to experiment. Offset, this is just going to create a delay. So it's now the audio track or the animation of the spectrum is not going to match the timing of the audio itself. So again, that's not something that I would really kind of mess around with. Thickness, okay, this is just going to be the outside radius of our little capsules. The softness, they're going to blur them quite a lot. Get nice little fall offs. Inside color, outside color. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, including this hue thing. You can make great, little rainbow colors, which is awesome, right? No, it's not awesome. Rainbows are bad. Okay. Rainbows are bad. Color symmetry. I mean, there's just a lot of controls in here that will affect the visual appearance of our little. This is neat. The digital. You can do analog lines. That's kind of fun. You see this on the news all the time when they're trying to visualize the sound effect or they're trying to visualize like a phone call. I see that on the news more than I should, right? Where they're interviewing someone on the phone. They don't have any video of the interview. They just have the audio. So they throw this effect in the background. So at the very least, you get some sort of visualization of the person talking. Then side options. This is just going to be like the top. Side A is the top. Side B is the bottom. Or you can do top and bottom. So lots of choices. Lots of choices. Okay. Oh, and then last down here at the bottom, composite on original. This is going to put that red background back. So if I click that on, now our red background's back. All right. Last thing I want to talk about is how to deform this. Because if you look closely at the example, this audio spectrum is not in a straight line. It's actually on a curve, and that curve changes to match the purple flow pattern of our background video clip. So let's check this out. One of the things that we can do is that we can modulate the shape of my audio spectrum on a path. Right now, this layer doesn't have a path on it. So let's create one. With my red solid selected, I can grab my pen tool, and I'm going to create just a Bezier path, an open Bezier path that looks something like this. There we go. And note that it's open. I didn't close the path by clicking back on its parent control vert. Now that I have a path, check it out. I have an option in here, mask one, and when I load it in, yeah, now the audio spectrum is going to continue to follow that path. Okay. If we wanted to, going back to what we were talking about earlier, this path is actually living on the masks channel. If I went in to the mask path channel and animated it, I can change, oops, excuse me. Let me grab my direct selection arrow here. Oops. Here it is. I can change the shape of this and it will animate for me, which is kind of neat. Let's go back in it. Oops. So I can like change the Bezier handles here, and it will update. Right now, no. Right now, no. With the way I've set this up, no. Pretty cool. Pretty neat. These compound effects inside of After Effects are extraordinarily powerful. We're going to continue talking about compound effects over the next couple of weeks. This is just kind of phase one as we start to have many layers influencing the output of a single effect inside of our system. So have fun with this. Yeah, question. Yeah.
So you apply the effects red soil,
Red solid. Yep. Mm-hmm.
and it's under effect.
Yep. Generate. And then audio spectrum. Nope, I think audio spectrum. I think they listed alphabetically, Tomoko. Right there. Generate, right? There you go. Good. And then just make sure that the first part is this audio layer. Just make sure it's directed towards the audio effect in your timeline. Cool groove. Yeah. Cool. And then hit play. See what you get. And then the rest of the controls allow you to customize how it looks. It's working. All right. Couple things. Let's just talk and visit real quickly what your expectations for your homework are this week. Your goal is to finish this project. You can see there's a number of different things that you'll have to do. I'm not going to give you all the keys to the kingdom on this one. Okay, you can figure this out. This is my thank you for working hard over the last couple weeks. As I understand, a number of the projects have been backbreakers. Okay, this is not a backbreaker. Okay, you should. This is in my mind. This is like a softball pitch. Okay, you should be able to knock this one out of the park pretty easily. Okay, there's not a lot of moving components to this, and you can bang this out in about 20 minutes. Okay. Your lab assignment this week is also a fun kind of technical assignment. If you look at what we're doing for our lab, we're taking that Axiom file, and I want you to track 3 different points within inside the car and apply any one of those tracking markers that I've created, those little squares. Okay, if you look at the assets that I gave to you in the resources section, I've given you these little PNG images of these squares with little crosses on them. Apply those to the tracked information on the scene. Okay, and that's it. Super simple. Bonus points are awarded if you can figure out how to do the whole grid thing on the left with the animated text, all that jazz. You get respect points. You get a celebratory high five at the end of the day. Okay? Should be kind of a fun one. Should be kind of a fun one this week. Questions on both the homework and the lab. We get about 45 minutes in class. If you're diligent, you may be able to knock one or both of these out before we go home tonight. Okay? Real quick, before we break for the evening and start into our lab, please make sure I went through and I did all the grades. I think I'm caught up with all the gradebook items. If you've noticed that there's a gradebook item in error, please let me know immediately. I'll get that resolved ASAP. As much as I would like to think that I'm a robot and I'm perfect the first time, yeah, I'm not. Yeah. So mistakes happen. Case in point, I gave a midterm exam this afternoon, and it was brought to my attention that one of the questions that I asked had the incorrect answer. Okay, it was a true/false, and I accidentally put the correct answer as false when it was in fact true, and I just clicked the wrong box in the form when I was creating the test. So, huh? For a different class. Different class. So please double check me as best as I can. And if you have assignments that are currently not submitted, get those in ASAP. Was there?
Yeah, there are a lot of grammatical errors.
You know, I'm an animation teacher, not an English teacher. Okay? If you want grammar, go find someone in the English department, because this is how much I care. Yeah, it's going to happen. This is English according to Pat. I make up my own rules. Okay? What do they say? What are the ship captains and teachers the last dictators on the face of the planet? Yeah. We can do whatever the hell we want. We really can. I'm joking. All right. Questions? Let's get to work. Of course.
Last week's, second That wasn't come from the textbook, or
It didn't come from our textbook.
what do you mean? I mean, CC? Eh?
No, it didn't. It's not in the textbook.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was so confused because I thought this is come from the textbook.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
The Piccadilly Circus was kind of like a project that was also kind of like a test.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's how I wanted to know. So just make as is.
Yeah, making that. You got it.
All right.
You got it. Making that. Zach, what's up?